All right, so up until now, we've been doing a lot of code in this main method. So we have our app class, and we just run the code line by line in our main method. We're not creating our own objects or anything. We're using other objects like the scanner. We instantiated the object, but I just kind of glossed over that just so I could use it. Let's make our application class into an object. So I'm going to say application. This is going to be my data type for my object. My app new equals new application. Right. So this is a special method called a constructor. So when we say new, we're going to create a new object of a new instance of an object application. Let's make our constructor. So say public application. I'm going to say sysout control space. I'm in the constructor. So in the constructor, you would initialize a lot of stuff that needs to be initialized. But we have a very simple class. So don't worry about it too much. I'll just keep adding stuff in these videos and explaining it as I go along. If I save this, look at this. This says it's not being used. It's not being used, but it is being created. An object is being created, and this is a reference to that object. I hit play. I'm in the constructor. See that? We called that. Now notice that this constructor, the name is the same as the class name. And if you haven't noticed, the public class is always the same name as the Java file. So this is application.java. This is application. All right, so just a little bit to pay attention to. The integrated development environment usually takes care of that for you, so people don't really have to pay attention, but someday you might need to know. Now, when I do my app, I'm using my object, and I can do stuff with it. Well, if I have something available, but I don't. Let's make a method. Let's make a method and call the method using the object. Let's say private. I don't want to be able to call this method outside of my object. I want it encapsulated in my object. So that's why I use this private. Void, that's my return type. I'm not going to return anything. I'm just going to print a welcome message. I need those parentheses there, even though I have no arguments. I'm not passing any variables in. I'll just go sysout, control space, welcome. Now, this is complaining. It's saying it's not being called, right? And because it's private, it says it's not being called locally. And because it's private, we know it's not being called outside the class either. So let's call it. Let's do my app. There's my object. Now I can hit this dot. Print welcome message. All right, let's run this. All right, I'm in the constructor, and then I got my welcome message. So now I'm going to shift a little bit from objects to methods, and let me explain a little bit about methods. So this method is very simple. It's private. It can only be used inside of the object that's been instantiated. It doesn't return anything. This is the method name, and it has no arguments. We're not passing any variables in. Let's change that. Let's make a method that returns nothing, void, print, and argument. And arguments are variables that are passed into a method. So the string, and I'll call this arg. Right, and that's what this is down here. String, this is a string array with args in it. So you can actually pass stuff into your Java program from the main method. And I'll show you how to do that, but not today. All right, so let's print out our argument. Sysout, control space. The arg is, and I am going to append that string on my print statement. So my app dot print an argument. I'm going to write, I hate pickles. And I'm really adamant about it, so I'll put an exclamation mark. And here we go. Let's run it. Oh, do we call it? Yeah, we call it. Good. Everything's good. There we go. I'm in the constructor, so you can see that that got called first. When I created my new object, we had our constructor print this out. Then we did our welcome message. Then we did print an argument. Now we have an argument. Let's go ahead. I want to kind of move that up a little bit. Let's go ahead and add a return type to our method. Let's make a new method with a return type, I should say. Let's say private. I'm going to say double. So I'm going to return a double. That's a number with a dot in it. So we have floats and doubles. Those are decimal data types. Let's say add two numbers. So I'm going to have a double that gets passed in, val1, and another double that gets passed in, val2. I'm going to add those two numbers. I'm going to make another variable called sum. I'm going to add those two numbers, val1 plus val2. And then I'm going to return sum. And then this red line turned to yellow. It's yellow because we're not calling it yet, but the error went away. If you don't have this, like if I comment this out, you're going to have an error, because if we said, hey, we're going to return a double, we need to return a double. Right? So let's do that. Let's call this. Let's add two numbers. And we're going to capture the return type too. So I'll say double result. Right? That's my variable name, result. I just made that up. So add two numbers. And I'm going to say 4.5 and 3.5. All right, so what should that give me? 8, right? Add two numbers. I thought that that was the error because I was careless, but you know what I forgot? I forgot to get the object, because add two numbers is in the object. All right, there we go. Now our error went away. A little bit of carelessness on my part. Let's print our result. Sys out, control space. Result is result. All right, let's run it. Boom, there, we got all kinds of stuff going on now. So we have a bunch of methods. You have the constructor that initializes stuff in the object when you create the object. We have a simple method, private. You can only call it inside of the object. It just prints something out to the screen. Now we have a simple method, return type is void. We don't return anything, but we have an argument. Here we have two arguments, and we return a double. All right, so now you're up and running. I'm going to get rid of these spaces right here. And hopefully you guys got this and it wasn't too bad. If not, leave me some comments and I'll try and help. But I will see you in the next video, and we'll start building on some of these principles. If you don't get something, just do it a few times and memorize it. Next time you run into it, then you're going to have more knowledge to kind of link things together. All right, see you in the next video.